Welcome back, Dolphins. So I'm just going to give you the first round draft pick right off the bat. I think, again, when we're talking about Tyreek Hill, and a lot of people are like, oh, he's the offense. If you get rid of him, you have no offense. I want you guys to look, and I understand it's his rookie year, but I want you to look at Jalen Waddle's rookie year, because I kind of did that. Because I don't know if you're like me. It's not that Jalen Waddle hasn't shown number one ability. It's just he seemed like a different person. Even when he was doing his thing, against the Ravens, his sophomore year when we got him. The second year, you saw his potential where he was making big play after big play. Tua was going to him basically in key situations. If you really consider it, whenever it's like Ravens game, we need that game-winning touchdown, it goes to Waddle. It's like he was like that the Panthers game when he needed that big touchdown to bring us up. In his rookie year, goes to Jalen Waddle. Whenever Tua needs a play, he looks at Waddle, and I understand Tyreek Hill is great, but Tyreek Hill does the bombs, he does all that stuff. I'll stand by my statement. Jalen Waddle's a better route runner than Tyreek Hill. But when you look at Jalen Waddle's rookie year, he looked like a different person. The confidence level, the ability, like all the different things just look like a different person. And then when Tyreek Hill had that 2,000-yard year, you started seeing like a confidence slip from Jalen Waddle, and I'll stand by that. After that year where they both had 1,500 and 1,700, and Jalen Waddle was looking great. Next year, we were just funneling the ball to Tyreek Hill, and you saw a clear confidence slip from Jalen Waddle. So what I'm proposing, and people are forgetting it, I'm not saying that they're the same. Josh Allen has dealt with the same exact thing that we're dealing with Tyreek Hill, but to a lesser extent. They traded Stephon Diggs, and Josh Allen looked better than he ever has in his life before. Why? Because you don't need that headache. It's the quarterback that's supposed to be leading the team and doing the talking and all that, not the wide receiver. The wide receiver needs to just be a wide receiver. So what I'm proposing is you look in this draft, Luther Burden, and I've said this for the billionth time, is the exact same thing as Tyreek Hill. Maybe not as fast. Tyreek Hill is the fastest in the league, but, also Tyreek Hill is going to be 32 coming into the season, so he's going to lose a step eventually. The most explosive, shifty, very, very good wide receiver, a little bit taller than Tyreek Hill in this draft. He's basically a Tyreek Hill in this draft. So what I'm proposing is you formulate that you are going to trade Tyreek Hill for a player. And with this draft, you don't even necessarily need to trade him for a specific player. People are, I think they're thinking that Tyreek Hill has zero trade value. Every team in the league wants an explosive wide receiver that can separate himself in the field. So no, it's not that teams are like, we'll throw chump change at you. I have a high probability after the draft, people are going to be lining up to trade for Tyreek Hill. It's not like we're in a position that we need to get rid of him. If you draft Luther Burden, you have the ease of just picking whatever team that you want to trade Tyreek Hill to and getting a player for it. So, again, you start off with Luther Burden, and people are not seeing, like, if you get Luther Burden, Jalen Waddle's confidence is going to come back, and he's going to play like a different player. I'm telling you this right off the bat. You have Akine and Washington. They fill the field. And then you basically have Waddle, Jonnu Smith. People are forgetting, like, we don't have another option. Jonnu Smith is basically like a humongous wide receiver at tight end. And then you have Luther Burden that Tua can get the ball to, plus Devon Achane. People think that it's just going to fall apart if we get rid of Tyreek Hill. I actually think the opposite. I think if you get rid of Tyreek Hill for, an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman or whatever it is, you draft Luther Burden, you have so many weapons on this field that Tua's going to play better because he doesn't need to look at Tyreek Hill. He doesn't need to hear Tyreek Hill. He doesn't need to, all the Tyreek Hill stuff can be gone. And Tua can just focus more on being the quarterback leader. You just get him an offensive line. I'm telling you right now, but we'll get into it. All right, so this is going to be the trading Tyreek Hill draft because, I kind of want to make a point here. Here's where I'm saying. People don't think that we can trade Tyreek Hill, and I think a lot of people are underlyingly not realizing the skill set that Luther Burden has in the draft. I understand that he is not going to be at the same level off the bat, but I think with Jalen Waddle, Malik Washington, Westbrook Akine, and having Luther Burden added to that explosiveness, here's what people are here's what people are forgetting to understand, is that there could be a big possibility that Tua is being hindered because he has to keep looking to Tyreek Hill instead of going through all of his reads and not seeing Jalen Waddle. So what we're essentially doing here is you're getting, just like Josh Allen, when they took away, who was it? Stephon Diggs, and he ended up playing better because he didn't have a whiny receiver to go to. I don't understand how people don't see that and how well Josh Allen played this year, MVP year, and don't think that Tua can do the same. It's real. It's you to get Tyreek Hill off that and have him not a locker room presence. And Tua can just lead, and he doesn't have to deal with someone, being like that. Same with Jalen Waddle. If you watch Jalen Waddle's rookie highlights, he was a different player. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Jalen Waddle in his rookie year was a different player. Like, he had this different confidence, different everything, bro. It was different. So you're doing that, and I think with that, you're gonna trade Tyreek Hill for an offensive guard, so you don't need to, you're going to look for someone that's going to trade a guard. That's kind of what you want. You want to draft a guard in this draft, but you also are going to look to trade Tyreek Hill for a guard. That's what you're going to make do, and you'll even maybe throw a pick next year for the guard. That's kind of what we're doing here. So what you have now is kind of like the perfect scenario in the second round, where Omar Norman Lott is there. Kevin Winston, he's there. He's more of a skill set player. The problem is he had that torn ACL. So, coming into the season, I don't want to get anybody that has a torn ACL. And Benjamin Morrison, here we go. Benjamin Morrison was one of the better corners. If you look at the analysis, Paulson Adebo, which was a pretty good guy, he's not going to be, well, actually, if you really look at him, he could definitely, not Kevin Winston. I mean, the thing is, though, is Kevin Winston is a steal. So if you're in this point of the draft, you're picking best player available. And honestly, with Omar, he's good, but not a standout. And the thing is with Kevin Winston, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, is Kevin Winston was going to be like one of the top safeties in this league in the college year. If he can, it's a tough one, because if he can just recover from what, you got a lot of picks here. You got Carson Schwessinger, Demetrius Knight, you have Unmanillan, you have Siobhan Revel. It's another, really solid corner, kind of like, explosive, fast, all that, 6'3", that's another guy that you could possibly think about. So you have your pick of the lot here, even JT Tuimoloau, Elijah Arroyo, if you want to get more explosive power. But for this, I always pick Omar Norman Lott. That's kind of why I don't want to pick him, because I always pick him. I always pick up defensive tackle. He looks to be good, but you even have Xavier Watts here. This is a good pick. This is a good pick to have. And like I said, even if you wanted to, Elijah Arroyo's there, you get more explosiveness to this team. But you want to pick best player available. You want to pick someone that's safe. I think Omar Norman Lott is safe, but he could, the thing is with him is he could also be like a, I think Benjamin Morrison, I think he's got the trending look to be a good player, but I think he surprised everybody. And I think Siobhan Revel, he is, but he's also coming off of a torn ACL, so that's kind of an issue here. Yeah, I honestly think with these guys, Kevin Winston, even though he's coming off a torn ACL, he was one of the best safeties. He's got that, 6'2", 208. Benjamin Morrison is a very solid corner. But are we getting another Cam Smith? That's kind of the issue, because we're kind of hoping that Cam Smith turns up. I honestly, it's not the sexiest pick. You could also get Braden Swinson, 6'4", 250. You get a defensive edge, or you get Princely. Yeah, but I don't think you want to go for somebody, because he kind of looks like another Chop. So this is a tough one, man. Maybe you go. You know what? The problem is, but can he switch to a 3-4? That's kind of the problem here. All things are pointing to Gosh, because he's just the safest pick. Honestly, you know, yeah, I think he's the best option. You got to pick the best option. I think he's just the best option right now. I always pick. It's like, let's see, Oladejo is a possibility here, but you also need corner. Yeah, you also need corner, and there's barely any corners in this. Dorian Strong. Yeah, I don't know. I truly do think that Makuba has to be the pick here. I always pick the same guys, you know, like I'm always picking the same dudes. It sucks, but it's just they're the best possible. Yeah, it's just the best possible pick. Makuba is the best possible pick. Could take Wyatt Milam. You know what? I think that's who I'm going to go for. I think in the third round, you get Wyatt Milam and you push him to the inside, and then you get another solid guard. Wyatt is pretty good. You know, he's not somebody that you can leave alone, you know, but definitely has some potential to do some pretty good things. And you're in round 4, you know, you have the option to get another receiver because Kyle Williams is a pretty decent receiver, and that's definitely an option. RJ Mickens is still there, you know, definitely an option. And then honestly, you know, Jaden Blue was someone looked to be, you know, really solid running back. He's someone that, you know, it's like, you know, Jalen Wright, I think, is going to come into his own, and I think he's going to do very well. But, you know, Jaden Blue being there, he's a very high potential running back. You know, I know we don't need running back necessarily right now, but he's a very high potential. You know, when what's his face left to the Falcons, you know, he was considered to be the next dude on the Texas Longhorns. He has a lot of traits that can do good. Oladejo is another pick that, you know, we can really take a look at, and, you know, very versatile guy. He's definitely trainable. So he's someone that you can definitely, you know, Savion Jones is another one. He's going to be a big boy on that defensive line. And Jacob Parrish, you know, Jacob Parrish is somebody that, you know, we could definitely think about. He's kind of like that Brent Grimes type of dude. But I'd rather have a bigger corner, especially in this league. You know, having small corners is tough. You could reach on a Noel Williams. I don't know. I think maybe Noel Williams might be the pick here because you need a corner. Who do we have so far? You know, you got Luther Burden, you got Omar Norman-Lott, you got the defensive tackle. You need a corner. Kobe Bryant is someone, you know, Kobe Bryant was another really highly rated dude. Ooh, do you reach for Kobe Bryant? He's small though, but Kobe Bryant is still solid. Billy Bowman, he's another option, just kind of misses tackles, so that's the only thing with him. Ooh, Noel Williams. It's kind of like, I'm kind of feeling him a little bit. I'm kind of feeling Noel Williams. I don't know. I think I'm going to, I think, you know, you got 6'1", 200 pounds. You know, he's a good man corner, and, you know, it's just, he kind of matches, you know, a Jalen Ramsey. He could definitely learn from Jalen Ramsey, I think. There's a lot of good players, but Oladejo is another option. But I think you need corner more than you need, you know, you can get some more defensive linemen. Actually, what do you want to do here? I mean, this draft, this one I'm doing is turning out. Tyler Batty, this is someone that definitely, I think let's just run up that offensive or that defensive line. Let's just run up that defensive line. What was his sack numbers? It's 7 sacks in 2024. Not bad, you know, not a bad. I think you take a shot on him. Yeah, I think you get another guy that can definitely bring some pass rush. Oh, I forgot we have another 4th rounder. I totally forgot about that. Perfect. So now you think of RJ Mickens, and I think you need safety. I think, you know, definitely someone that you can definitely take a look at, because you got your corner, your guard, your defensive interior, and you got your defensive end. And you got your wide receiver that's going to take Tyreek Hill's place. You could go crazy and draft Kyle Williams. And, honestly, at this pick, Kyle Williams is the best player available out of most of these guys right now. Kyle Williams at 6'1", I think he is. At 6'1" or 6 foot, 286. Very fluid guy. Solid pick. I think you could definitely fill up on wide receivers another day. It's a Tesla. He's another guy, 6'4", 217. If you wanted to go receiver, Trevor Etienne is a very solid guy. Tyler Batty, if you wanted to get defensive lineman. But you got Billy Bowman and RJ Mickens. Billy Bowman is another, I think he's more of like a box safety style. Looks good, but, I think the pick is between the safeties right now. It's definitely between the safeties. Yeah. Definitely between the safeties. RJ Mickens, wish they had some stats on him. 6 foot 210. But he's going to be more of that, decent style. Like, the floor is good on him. Billy Bowman is the guy that is. He's tough to overlook because he does like put his shoulder down for tackles, and it hurts him a lot of time. But he does make some plays, man, where he you can move him all around the field. Yeah, he's small too. He's small. You take a chance on him. He's small. That's the problem. You're getting a guy that possibly, or do you just take best player available in the fourth round? Al Williams falls all the way to the fourth round instead of drafting on need. You get 2 receivers because you already kind of have all the dudes that you need. You need a corner. There's not really any corners right now. Yeah, but you can also, the thing is with the corner position is you got your Davius White, you got a bunch of veterans that you can just bring in, have him do like a Xavier Howard. You even have Xavier Howard if he wants to come back. So I'm not too crazy on getting a corner. Yeah, I think best player available, you get your safety in the fourth round. You get another body to go back there. What round is this? All right. So now we're in round 5, and there's still a lot of players available. You still have Kyle Williams, which I think at this point, I'm not sure why he's falling this far. I don't think this is a real thing. I think it's just because they don't have an analysis on him. So I don't think Kyle Williams is falling to the 5th round. I think that's just a glitch. You have Addy, you have Ty Robinson, so you can get another defensive interior. Cameron Jackson is another guy. None of these guys they seem to have a scouting report on. Cameron Jackson is a bigger guy, so you would be getting that that space eater, 342, big boy. Also, you have a couple of players like Luke Kandra, which you could definitely, because I've heard some good things of Luke Kandra, somebody that could definitely do something. Logan Brown's another one. So in the 5th round, let's see what we got. You got your safety, you got your edge, you got your, guard. Corners in this area you're not going to go and get because you're just really not going to get anybody that can really do much of anything. You want to take a player that can possibly have an impact immediately. Honestly, if you really consider it, Trevor Etienne, this is someone that Mike McDaniel would definitely like. He's kind of like a Devon Achane, but again, you want to pick the best player available. You have Ty Robinson. Tyler Batty is someone that I think, if you're really going best player available, I think you got to go Tyler Batty. 5th round, you're getting another defensive end, someone that is much more, he's definitely fallen to this point. Getting someone that is much more of a, true type of defensive end, with his intangibles, everything, 6'5", 275, bigger guy, definitely can come in there. It doesn't need to do a crazy amount of pass rush, but definitely can fill some holes. Because at this point, you don't want to reach right here. You want to get someone that can come in and do something immediately. Especially in the 5th round, you want to see if you can get any gems in the 5th round. So you don't want to take for position. You kind of got everybody that you need. Like I said, again, Luke Kandra, you can reach on him. You already got some safeties. A lot of the other players, they're not, Arquez Hunter, little speedy dude. You're not getting someone that's going to really make an impact. So I think you got to take. He's probably the best player available right now. And, you're getting another defensive end, and we got another 5th-round pick. Now I think, you reach for Luke Kandra. I think you go and grab another guard, and then this is now best player available. You're in round 7. Get some. You can get your return guy in Sam Brown. Yeah, it's best player available. You got, I think, like 3. Three guys or 3 picks in the 7th round. Well, some of this doesn't make any sense. Why is Ty Robinson falling from the 3rd round? Whatever, I'll pick him. Robinson falls all the way to the 7th round. I'll pick him up. Malachi Moore is someone that you could possibly think about. I think you get a second safety. Jason Marshall. Somebody that has the intangibles. Like I said, 7th round, you want to pick someone that is going to contribute. Well, I think in this area, you want to pick up someone that can do returns. So Jimmy Horn, someone, getting a return guy, getting someone that, even Jaquavius Marks, he's going to be your goal line. Raheem Sanders, I think, would be that dude for your goal line. Timothy McKay's over here. Go guard again. If you wanted to. How many picks do we have? We got 3, so best player available. You already got 2 safeties, so I don't think you need to get another safety. We have 2 safeties? No, we don't have 2 safeties. All right, so maybe you go and get, Jordan Hancock. Umfield is there. You can get your return guy. Malachi Moore is there, or Jordan Hancock. Yeah, screw it. I say you get Malachi Moore. Yeah, you get Malachi Moore. You get a second safety. Jordan Hancock's still there. And then you go and get, someone that's going to make an immediate impact. Where is... Did he already get picked up? Yeah, picked him up. Timothy McKay already get picked up? No, he's still here. Where is he? Did he already get picked up? Clay Webb, Theo Weiss. He just disappeared. No. Seattle picked him up. All right. So like I said, you got 2 more picks. Just get, I think you sit here and go Raheem Sanders, 230. He could be your goal line dude. Definitely can make something of himself. And then let's see what we got here. This you're just gonna, I don't think you need another running back. I think we can maybe snag, I don't want to go tight end. I don't think we need a tight end. We can just get that free agency again. Honestly, Jordan Hancock is there. Load up on young safeties and then see who takes the pick. Or 52 receptions, 813 yards. I think here, you either get another playmaker on both sides. Yeah, you know what? Let's get a receiver. Let's just load up on receivers. Because safety, you can go and, snag another safety. But just load up on receivers. And there you have it. You trade. I know it's going to say C, but I don't know why people are hating on Luther Burden. At that point, yeah, I think Luther Burden, if you want to trade Tyreek Hill, you're getting a Tyreek Hill. They're going to say C just because, I don't know why they have such a low grade. He's a 4.4 guy, fast, agile, most shifty player in the draft. Basically what Mike McDaniel wants. Omar Norman-Lott, definitely high-end guy. Wyatt Milam, you get in the 3rd round, you switch him to guard. Oladejo, you get in the 4th round, you get a guy that can definitely be something. RJ Mickens, they don't like him very much, but, I think that's just because they don't have a grade on him because he's definitely a great safety. And you get Tyler Batty in the 5th round. Another solid defensive end. Luke Kandra in the 5th round. You get another guard. Ty Robinson, if he falls all the way to the 7th round, which doesn't make any sense. And Malachi Moore. You get definitely some high-end players. And I think that's the draft. You trade Tyreek Hill. You got 1, 2 wide receivers to add. 2 explosive wide receivers. To add to this, you get a couple of guards, you get a couple of defensive interiors, and a couple of edge rushers, and some safeties. And you get everything that you need, all high-end players. And you're picking, top players. And, honestly, it's like, I don't they don't like it, but I think Luther Burden is a very solid player. That's what I'm proposing. You get Luther Burden. I know they're going to say it's a C, and I know I'm going to hear in the comments, Luther Burden, blah, blah, blah. He's the same thing as Tyreek Hill. You're getting a Tyreek Hill in the draft. You're getting the same exact thing. When Luther Burden was coming out of Missouri, people, even now, people are just excited about the explosiveness and the shiftiness of him as a wide receiver. Plus, he's 6 foot. He's bigger than Tyreek Hill. I'm telling you, you're going to be getting someone that is a steal because he had Brady Cook throwing to him. Guy sucks. Guy's not a great quarterback. Now having Tua throwing to him where he can get the ball and go for running. You're get the ball and continue running instead of having to stop and do all these crazy, acrobatic catches. You're going to have NASCARs all over the field, except they're going to play as a team. They're not going to play as an individual person. And like I said, the best reference to this is Josh Allen. You got rid of Stephon Diggs. He played better. It's going to be the same thing with Tua. If you saw when Tua didn't have to focus in on a receiver, he was very good. When he can just have time and go through his reads, Tua is very good. So I think that's what you do. You see in this draft, you got a couple of people that can come in. You have Wyatt Milam and you have Luke Kandra, both guards. You possibly trade Tyreek Hill for a guard, and then you get maybe another free agent guard, and you fill this line up. You give Tua time, and he'll just go through his reads, and eventually one of these receivers is going to get open. And like I said, like I've been saying since the beginning, and I think people are undermining this, Jalen Waddle's confidence is going to come back. He's going to be the guy, and I think, you hear people like, some of the Dolphins news reporters never played football in their life and, never played sports in their life, judging Jalen Waddle, saying like he doesn't want to be the number one. Yes, he does. He's just a good kid and he doesn't want to overstep his boundaries. But Jalen Waddle definitely, he looked like a different player his rookie year. He looked more excited. He looked more pumped. He didn't really drop the ball that much. It was different when Tyreek Hill came in and he had to be number 2. He had to be the guy that maybe gets the ball once or twice a game instead of the 7 or 8 times that he was used to. It takes a toll on you. So I think with this draft, you get a multitude of all the players, but at the best spots. And you get a bunch of players that can start. And you can finally, I'm totally on board. I love what Tyreek Hill did, but just the way that he acts and the type of person that he is, I just don't like him on the team. I want him somewhere else. I don't really like it, the way that he goes about his life and how he acts. And I just want him gone, And I think people are really getting over emotional on like what's going to happen to the team if you get rid of Tyreek Hill. And I'm telling you right now, like, we have a lot of explosive players. The only problem with this team, it's not Tyreek Hill that makes the team better. It's just he's fast enough to get open quick enough with the pocket collapsing. But if you draft Luther Burden and you just get to an offensive line, I don't think we're going to have a dip in play. I think we will be perfectly good, and I think you develop the defense. Anthony Weaver did a solid job, and in this draft, you get some edge players, you get some defensive tackles, you fill that defensive line, and Anthony Weaver is going to do a great job, and here's what I'm saying. You don't necessarily need to think that things are just going to fall apart. I think what the Dolphins are doing right now is Mike McDaniel has the opportunity to keep his job, and he's if he does it, he does it. But what I think they also have, and why I think people need to stop panicking, is that Anthony Weaver is on the team. So what happens? You have a guy that if this season falls apart, you immediately get rid of Mike McDaniel and make Anthony Weaver the head coach. And in that case, then you immediately... this is the biggest key here. We have a head coach on the team. We already have a head coach option. He likes this team. He likes the players. He stayed for another year. He didn't take a head coaching job. You have a guy that if Mike McDaniel fails, you have another head coach right in the building that can turn this team around. That's what I think the key is. You have another guy that is right in the building that can just immediately take over. That's why I don't think Stephen Ross is too worried. You give Mike McDaniel a shot to turn it around, and if he doesn't, then you bring in Anthony Weaver as the head coach, and then you just go from there. You just kind of ride it out. So, again, like I said, I think Luther Burden is the key, and I think getting rid of Tyreek Hill, making this team more of a team. You can't have a guy that's showing up late, doing all this crap, and then you want to enforce the culture. You just can't do that. You have to get rid of the players that don't have the same philosophy, and Tyreek Hill's one of them. But Let me know down in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you like this video. Appreciate you guys very much. Yeah, like I said, fins up, baby. Let's get rid of Tyreek Hill. Hashtag let Waddle eat again. That's the hashtag. Hashtag let Waddle eat. That's what we're doing. Love you all. Peace.